Hi there, I'm Tasha.
And I'm Fallon.
And together, we're the hosts of No Roadmap with Tasha and Fallon.
It's a podcast where two black women have real, random talks.
We cover everything from hobbies to relationships, pop culture, and social issues.
We don't shy away from the tough conversations, but we also like to have fun and be ourselves.
So join us every other Thursday as we share our thoughts, stories, and experiences.
You never know where the conversation might take us, but we promise it'll be worth it.
No roadmap, just real random talk.
So what do you say, Tasha? Are you ready to hit record and get started?
Let's do it, Fallon. Let's give the people what they want. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of No Roadmap with Tasha and Fallon. I'm Tasha.
I'm Fallon.
And today is a very special topic we're going to talk about.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. We're going to pay homage to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and say thank you. But also, hold the phone. We have a special guest. I know. And he's our first official guest on No Roadmap with Tasha and Fallon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to let him introduce himself because anytime I refer to him, I say Sarge. I don't use his name. But now I'm going to let him come out of the shadows on his own so that way going forward when I talk about him, you'll know who I'm talking about. Aw, he looks confuzzled.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. How do I address myself?
How do I address myself? You just say.
You say who you are. Or...
I am retired First Sergeant Arroyo from the United States Army. Spent 24 years in service. And I'm also married to Tasha.
Hey! Welcome,
Thank you
Snaps.
so much.
He's looking at me like, what the hell is going on right now?
He volunteered. We asked and he was like...
I kind of bullied him a little bit, but that's okay. He's used to that. We asked him to join us because of his illustrious military career. He's not just retired First Sergeant Alejandro Arroyo, but he is as you can see, decorated veteran. Tell us about some of your awards.
I did 2 combat tours overseas and a couple tours in support of the global war on terrorism. Mm-hmm. Roughest one was from 2004 to 2005. Mm-hmm. I caught the tail end of Fallujah in that battle. Wow. Then we shifted over into a place called Al-Kisik in, I think it's southern Iraq at that time, in preparations for the next battle that was going into the, where was that? Talafar. The Battle of Talafar and the Battle of Mosul. I was in multiple engagements over there. I was working with 3rd and 5th Special Forces Group at the time. I was an embedded advisor. They called us ASTs, Advisory Support Teams. And we were force multipliers. Our job was to recruit from the indigenous population, whether it be Sunni or Shiite or Kurdish Muslims, didn't matter. Bring them back together, the army that we actually took apart when we initially did the invasion, and teach them how to shoot, move, and communicate, and work as a cohesive unit in combat against the insurgents that were currently there at the time. They had many names for them.
So literally your job was to bring people together in order to protect themselves.
To teach them how to form their own military
It was
force.
to formally create a new Iraqi army so that they would be able to fend for themselves later on.
That's huge.
That was a lot of responsibility. I was a drill sergeant along with my team members. So it was 2 drill sergeants assigned to every Special Forces A team. With that, it was a very unique experience. We had access to a lot of equipment and weaponry that normal conventional units didn't have. At the same time, we didn't have the same luxuries as conventional units. Most of our operations were out of combat operating posts, what we would call COPs, where normal units would work out of FOBs, forward operating bases.
Okay.
The difference is one has support and all your supplies readily available, where the other one you're just working with whatever's on your back.
And that's that's the unit you were part of.
That's where I would work out of.
Right.
A combat operating post.
The COPs, yeah.
Yeah, we rotate out.
Now I'm looking at your plaques, your certificates, as they adorn the wall in your apartamente. And I see, and I would like you to explain the Bronze Star. You were a recipient of 2 Bronze Stars, one with Valor.
Yeah. Towards the end of my tour in 2005, They brought us together. It was a very memorable event. It was we were working with, I think it was 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. So it's kind of weird the way combat works out. You have areas of operation, and whatever unit is currently there is in charge of that area of operation. So you can be Army, Marine, Navy, whoever you are, but if you fall in that area of operation, you fall under that command.
Right.
For command and control and usage of, we're considered assets. At that time, we were working with 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. They were a cavalry unit similar to, let me see, what would be a good explanation for that? You ever see the old Vietnam movies and the cavalry went into Vietnam? Landing Zone X-ray. That was the first major engagement in Vietnam. That was 1st Cavalry Division. Instead of using horses, they used helicopters.
Right.
Similar with 3rd Armored Cavalry. On top of that, they had a lot of armored assets. That particular day, it was prior to us actually exiting Iraq. Whoever was not actively engaged in combat, they created a formation for us wearing their Stetsons and combat spurs. I was absolutely floored by it because to see Stetsons in the middle of the desert is amazing. And it's a formal piece of headgear,
right?
Ceremonial. They were all wearing their Stetsons and their combat spurs. There was only about maybe 15 of us all together. We were a separate group, a team in ourselves. And I was awarded the Bronze Star for Valor. And that initial one was due to 2 helicopter pilots that were shot down while I was engaged with the enemy. And myself and a young 23-year-old guy named Lieutenant Tinklepaw. I'll never forget his name.
Lieutenant Tinklepaw?
His name
That
was
is a specific
That is a very memorable.
Tinklepaw.
Now, you of all people know, Tasha, I'm not very good with names at all.
No, and he's not. I could tell you stories where he had jacked up.
But that is so specific.
That name just stuck out. I thought it was funny when I first met him. We really didn't know each other. He was 23 years old, recently graduated out of college.
Oh.
And his name was Lieutenant
Tinklepaw.
What did you call him?
Lieutenant Tinklepaw.
You called him Lieutenant Tinklepaw? Now, see, now that is a miracle.
I refer to him as Sir.
Because he's a lieutenant.
Because he was an officer, and I'm
and you're
enlisted.
NCO, right?
Yeah.
But just the fact that you didn't screw up his name and give it some weird nickname,
right?
Because he's good for that.
Only for those who are lower ranking than me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Touché.
Follow, yes, okay. Chain of command, as you were.
He was. So I was working with them at the time, doing them a favor, a different type of operation. I really wasn't supposed to be on that particular mission. It was just something that was, added on. Hey, we need somebody, and I went along. Things got really heavy, and they got very bad. In the middle of the engagement, we brought in the little birds in order to do what they call strafing rounds.
What's a little bird, if I may ask?
A little bird is similar to a Kiowa.
Okay.
A Kiowa is the small helicopters that were in Black Hawk Down.
Great.
The movie Black Hawk Down.
The movie Black Hawk Down.
Okay. Yes. Got it.
Yes.
Right, continue. I'm sorry.
We also call them flying beer cans.
Okay.
They have no armor capabilities at all. So those pilots are very, very susceptible to enemy fire. While we were engaged with the enemy, I looked up and I noticed that one of the helicopters that were doing the strafing rounds was coming down with the machine guns and and little small missiles, because we were kind of in a bad position being overrun. And they were giving us backup. So the little bird came in, he was laying down suppressive fire, and a rocket propelled grenade hit his tail.
Oh no.
When it hit, he was able to stabilize the helicopter to the best of his ability as it was doing 360. And it crashed about, I believe it was like 200 to 300 meters from our location.
Wow.
Immediately at that point, I remember watching it happen and just thinking to myself, I've seen Black Hawk Down. This is what it must have felt like.
Right.
A lot of times you end up in these positions, it's not because you want to. And what goes through your mind is not how cool it is or how exciting, but how did I get here?
Right.
Right? You always feel like, what am I doing here? What's going on? All I knew is that growing up in the early 90s, I volunteered for Somalia, Bosnia. I also volunteered for a couple other operations. But unfortunately, due to my duty station, they wouldn't allow me to go to those particular missions.
Okay.
And that was as of, I 1991 and forward. 91 is when I signed up. Somalia and Black Hawk Down, I believe, occurred in 1993. So seeing this happen in front of my eyes, the first thing I remembered was what happened to those helicopter pilots in Black Hawk Down.
Right.
Those pilots were actually captured, dismembered, and then sent back in pieces. So my first priority at that point was to break contact since I wasn't actively engaged. They had units engaging the enemy and take our little tank and get to the pilots as soon as possible. And that's exactly what we did. We got to the location, and I never. Have you ever ran in the sand?
Not at full tilt.
Have you ever ran on asphalt?
Yes. I've run on asphalt.
Okay, you know how difficult that can be sometimes.
Yes.
It's always difficult for me.
It's
to
like
run anywhere.
But running on sand is
But
ridiculous.
running on sand has gotta be like
because
trudging through
because
mud.
the sand is not offering any real resistance.
Right.
So you're working.
So you're sinking. You're working against.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm only. I believe at the time I was 5'7".
You were 5'7".
I'm 5'6" now.
Yeah, you are.
But being 5'7", carrying about 70 pounds of gear on my back, it took me. It felt like forever to get there.
Right.
Were you alone?
I was at the time.
Oh.
Yeah, I ran as fast as I could. I, basically Forrest Gumped it.
Yes.
I was running. And
Run,
I was
Forrest,
out.
run.
Yeah, I was out. Get there, grab one of the pilots. They seemed dazed and confused. Out, picked one of the pilots up. Another fun fact about pilots is they're all really tall.
And so you're dragging someone.
This guy was at least 6 foot, 6'2".
So someone who's a whole half foot taller than you.
Oh yeah, and then trying to get him out the helicopter was another ordeal. Once I got him out,
Were you under fire at the time?
yes, it was a constant. It was constant fire. It was nothing accurate.
Right.
Okay.
After a while, you become a little bit numb to the things that are happening around there.
Right.
But you're not thinking about any of that as it's
Right.
occurring.
You're trying to deal with the situation as
Yeah,
it
you're
presents
staying
itself.
right.
I do remember the first pilot. He weighed a ton. Got him up, and I hear him talking. He goes, "Oh my, what's going on?" I'm like, "You all right?" He goes, "Yes." I threw him down, and I said, "Start running now.
Right.
See the tank? Run now, run." And I went to the other pilot, got him up, got him out, and told him to run. And another soldier came out of nowhere to give support. So it was only two of us there.
Wow.
Lieutenant Tinker Paul was doing like an overwatch. He was helping out big time with the tank, and there was a young kid driving the tank. I just remember it now. I look back on it, how young we were at the time. I was 30, so I was a sergeant first class. I was considered a little bit older for the military.
Okay.
Once you hit like the 35, you're over the hill. You might as well be 70 at that point. But these kids they were.
I'm right here. Do you feel attacked? Do you feel seen, sir?
Oh yeah. You just think about it. These are just kids. And then once those pilots got back, ran back, got into the back of the Bradley, the tank, and I couldn't breathe. I was just like totally winded.
Right.
I was just tired.
Well, you were literally running for your life.
Right. And running for their lives.
And running for their lives.
Yeah.
So was the not being able to breathe, was that just a physical manifestation of what was going on, or were you mentally was your mental catching up to the situation at that point?
At the point when I sat down in the tank, they raised
Yeah.
the lamp, I was able to just like sit down and just take a breath. And I wasn't thinking your adrenaline is going back down.
Right.
Your adrenaline
Yeah.
will make you do things you never thought
You
before.
could do.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you see that in combat a lot. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze mentality that occurs. And one of the pilots said to me, "Hey, dude, hey man, we're missing our flight pads. Our flight pads. They're flight pads." I'm like, "What's a flight pad?"
Like, I have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
have no clue what you're talking about. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Because he was still in battle mode, I'm assuming?
No. He left back.
This is what the pilot is.
The pilot, both pilots, their flight paths were missing, and it's a clipboard that they keep on their leg, and it identifies the routes in which all the helicopters travel.
Oh, and so that was like.
So you don't want that to fall into the hands of the enemy.
Correct.
Right.
That's top secret stuff.
Yeah.
So if the enemy was able to get their hands on it, we weren't able to recover the helicopter. Then we're in a
World of
we're in a
hurt.
bad bind.
Yeah.
Right.
It's low level flight paths, and I was like, all right, what is it? And when he explained to me, I'm like, oh my god. And then the other guy said, I believe he was missing his weapon. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's workable. I could do that.
Figure that out.
I know it'll work. I go, what does a flight pad look like? He goes, it's just a clipboard. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, lower the ramp. At that point, I'm just like, whatever.
You go back?
Yeah, I went back.
Oh my gosh.
I went back. The plan was to get. There was another soldier where I was telling him we're gonna bound. So bounding is I go first, I get down. I'm up, they see me, I'm down, lay down fire. Then he goes. I'm laying down fire for him. Then he lays down fire for me.
Okay.
So it's the cover.
Leapfrog.
Yeah, leapfrogging.
We leapfrog till we get to the objective.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't work too well.
Okay.
Oh.
I mean, in a perfect world.
Right.
Yeah, no plane survives first contact.
Of course not.
Right.
We started taking on fire, and I'm like, forget this, I'm out of here. Boom. And I just bolted right from the helicopter. You're better off just get there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes speed is your best security and cover.
Right.
Not giving the enemy a chance to actually pinpoint on you.
Right.
Because there was only two targets at that point. We were pretty safe, but we didn't have backup at the time. We were by ourselves. And the enemy was closing in from 360. Get to the helicopter. I'm looking for this thing. And
not knowing what it looks like.
Not knowing what it looked like. It was kind of like my wife asking me to find a shoe for her. Hey babe, I left my sweater over, and it's on the top drawer on the left, up on the third floor.
This is an actual memory because he knows.
You're just like, really.
My husband's the same way.
Really,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But I know where his belt is.
That part. I know where all of his things are. But
if he asked me where his brown belt is,
right,
it's in the bottom of the closet because it fell off.
Same. He can attest to that.
That's what it felt like. So now I'm rummaging through this helicopter that I'd never
been in.
I'd never been in before. Right. I'm just looking around. It's a small helicopter.
While taking on fire.
Oh yes, fire was coming, but I really wasn't paying attention to that. I needed to get the flight paths. I found it.
Okay.
I found it. I snatched it, and then I'm like, oh, there goes the weapon. So I go to grab the weapon. Next thing I know, I believe there's little silos on the side of the skids that you shoot missiles out of. Well, it's it goes on fire, right? Now in my head.
Wait, what?
It could have exploded.
The ammunition. The helicopter went on fire.
Right.
On that.
So everything, like all the side missiles and the silos could explode.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm his wife, and I'm just hearing this for the first time in 20 years. Go ahead.
It's fine.
Oh.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that was a problem. I was like, oh, man. I was like, ain't this something?
Ain't that something?
Ain't that the way?
Ain't that some ish?
I grabbed the fire extinguisher, put it out real quick, and I'm like, all right, dude, I'm out of here. I'm tired. It's hot, I just want to relax. And I Forrest Gumped it back. Luckily there was another guy from a different unit that showed up, because at this point other units started coming around to try to pull security and hold back the enemy. I wasn't aware of how many people were out there. It's a far perimeter.
Right.
Huge. So I did him out. I start running back, right back to the back of the tank. Get in the tank, and I'm like, raise the ramp. I go, is this what you're looking for? And they're like, oh my God, how'd you get it? Oh my God. He goes, you were out there by yourself? I'm like, oh yeah, dude.
I had to do what I had to do.
You ain't gonna run. I mean, it is what it is. You just got blown out of the air.
Right.
I can't get him to find the big fork in the utensil drawer, but that he can find.
That I found.
Because the fork is not life and death.
That part, he's like priorities.
Priorities, 100%.
Priorities, people.
You're welcome. I'm giving you a free pass.
I'm giving that priority. She's not wrong.
Only when I'm really hungry, I'll find
Right.
There's got to be incentive there.
Find a way. He'll find a way.
So
that was the Bronze Star with Valor.
Yeah, what I remember about that the most was getting back in the tank. And at the time, I had facial hair, and because I was working with the Special Forces group, I had a special. I didn't wear a name tag. I didn't wear any identification of it.
Wow.
In the event the enemy does get to you, they don't know who you are, and short of them seeing my tattoos, which is something I was deathly afraid of.
Right.
You're gonna have to get it out of me. So they didn't know who I was, and the one pilot says to me, and he was a Special Forces guy. So he has a Special Forces tag and stuff, And he goes, hey, dude, what rank are you? And I looked at him and go, rank? And I'm like, I'm a sergeant first class. He goes, oh, thank God. And I go, thank God. I'm like, what's that supposed to mean?
Right.
What does that mean, He goes, man, I thought I was going to have to tell my wife a private saved me, like a brand new soldier.
Wow.
Stop it. Talk about pride.
A private.
That
private saved me. I go, oh, no. Tell your wife a reservist saved you. And they're like, reservist?
Right.
And that blew their mind.
That blew their mind, yeah.
They probably would have preferred you were a private. than a weekend warrior, right?
Right. Oh, I'm crying.
Because that's the common misconception at that time.
Right.
But the global war on terrorism kicked it up at such a tempo and a pace that the reservists and National Guard were actually catching up in experience and execution.
So the active duty,
without
soldiers,
a doubt. We don't have dwell time. So, and they looked at me and they're like, "You're a reservist?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I got a real job." And like, what do you mean? Like, what do you do? I go, I work for a power company, man.
I love it.
You know,
Right.
This is my
hobby.
side job.
It's
This
my
is my
hustle.
hustle. I'm actually losing money being here.
Right.
They start laughing like, "Wow, really?" I go, "Yeah, man." I remember that, and that was the end of it. You know, once we got back to the base, the next thing that stuck out is we made it back to the forward operating base once we covered what we had to, and the special forces guys were all a couple of guys coming to the gate, and I'm by myself, and I'm dirty and all this other stuff, not bad, and they're all yelling like, "Hey, Freddie, are you okay? Leighton, you all right? Freddie, you good?" I'm like, "Freddie, who's Freddie?" I'm looking around.
You're looking for Leighton.
I said, I go, "I'm Arroyo. That's Leighton. We're two different people." We looked exactly the same.
They do.
In all fairness.
They do have a striking resemblance.
We had the same combat gear, same setup. I actually set him up on his gear, so we looked similar. We were both bald, in our facial hair, and they were like giving me high fives, like, "Oh man, great job, man! It was unbelievable what you did." I'm like, I go, "What was it?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They go, "Yeah, we watched the whole thing. They saw it they had a drone
Oh my gosh.
over the top." And I remember saying to the master sergeant, like, "Hey, dude, can I see that footage?" He goes, "No, sorry, dude. Top secret.
Classified, yeah.
Classified, yeah."
But you did it.
Doesn't
But
matter.
I was there.
No, it was
me. What you were watching was me. That didn't matter.
No, no, it doesn't matter. And at that point, I was so mentally checked out. I was just tired.
Yeah.
Right.
Was that the time when Leighton thought you had died?
Oh no, that was another situation.
Different.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah, it was totally
All
different.
We're
right.
gonna have you on for another episode.
Yes. Okay, so that was the one with Valor.
They gave me, they awarded me.
They awarded
the
you.
Bronze Star with Valor.
But you also have another Bronze Star
Yes, yeah.
from the same tour.
From the same tour. It's a little unorthodox that you receive 2 Bronze Stars in the same tour, but it has more to do with survivability. The second Bronze Star had to do with a lot of other operations I was a part of, where I was able to help others or save others or put myself in
Right,
line of
harm's
fire
way.
type. It happens so often
Right.
at that point. At that time of the war, it was so commonplace that you really don't think much about it.
Right.
But obviously, there was people in the higher ups that were like, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is it?" And they're like, "Oh yeah," and the special forces guys would be like, "Oh, that's our reservist, Arroyo. The drill sergeant. He's great. He's amazing." So that second Bronze Star was compiling a lot of other things I did in combat, along with separate from the helicopter incident.
Yeah.
So what does Memorial Day mean to you? I know, like, for us lay people, it's the unofficial start of summer, but it means so much more to you. So if you could tell me how that really impacts you.
Well, there are 3 days in particular, right? You got Veterans Day. Everybody knows Veterans Day, right? Think of veteran. You got Veterans Day. You got Soldiers Day. That's somebody who's actively serving.
Right.
And then you have Memorial Day, and that is to remember those that have fallen.
Right.
So Memorial Day does not have the same significance to myself as it does to everyone else. I try to conform to the best of my ability, but majority of the time on Memorial Day, I will spend it by myself, remembering my battle buddies in combat that died or those who have passed since. There's a lot of anniversaries that go through my head that I keep to myself, because you just want to remember them. You don't want to forget them.
Right.
Right. You want people to say their names.
Yeah. That's something I struggle with. Another thing you deal with, on a regular basis, but Memorial Day specifically, is you think about these different things that you did or the situations that you were in. There was a guy named Sergeant Kitts. I'll never forget this. We go out on an operation, and we get our intel. We find out the objective. This is like 2 a.m. Hey, Arroyo, they need a tier 1 translator. We had one. You know, you want to hop in on this mission? Can you take care of this for us? I'm like, yeah, I got it. So I take the translator. I'm not really a part of this mission at all. Unfortunately, when we go out, we're discussing. I'm just sitting back and watching with the translator so that we could talk to the informant. So they speak to the informant. I get thumbs up. Boom. Here's the intel. Here's the bad guys that we're looking for. At the time, I believe it might have been Zarqawi at the time we were trying to hunt. I wasn't privy to any of that type of information. I was just there specifically to bring the translator.
Right.
So we get there. We pick up the translator. We get our information. Then we head to the objective. We go to the objective, and it was just a total show. We hit.
We'll fix that in post.
I apologize. I got it. It was just horrible. The houses we were supposed to go into, they were going into the wrong houses. The intel was.
Was the intel bad?
I don't believe that the informant gave us bad intel.
Okay.
I believe that our coming in, the way we set up, gave them enough room. They shifted over one or two houses.
Right.
You know, the most valuable intel are human intel that are eyes on the objective to keep eyes on until we get there, because things change.
Right.
Of course, one constant. So things have changed. Things turned really bad. And once I heard the squawk box, it's a speaker inside and you hear the guys calling in, you know, this guy's down, we're hitting the wrong houses, things are going wrong. I'm screaming at the interpreter to yell at the informant what's going on, because we took the informant, I had him.
Right.
I want to know what's going on. Where are we? Why are we hitting? Are we hitting the wrong houses? Did we get bad intel? Eventually, it gets to a point where you have to make that judgment call. Even though I was not a part of this particular unit, this was a different part of 3rd Armored Cav. I knew to cut it.
Right.
Cut it. Break contact. And that was just only due to my prior combat experience. These guys were still trying to push in. I'm like, dude, you're going to become combat ineffective. Break contact now. Bring them back, because now we're going to have more wounded than we do alive.
And who's the sergeant's name you just mentioned? Sergeant Kitts?
His name was Sergeant Kitts. Yeah, I remember his name. What bothers you is, like, that particular day, Kitts got shot in the elbow.
Ooh.
You know, he got hit. So I didn't know this guy. I just remember his name tag. And I'm telling him, break contact, bring him back, get it in, get it out. Right. You know, let's get out of here. So we go in there, out there as maybe 8 or 9. We're coming back with 13. You can barely fit, you know. Just think about the 70s and some of the station wagons we used to do. It's just like
piling on like clowns in a clown car.
Piling on top of each other, you know. I'm talking to this guy, and I see he's profusely, he's bleeding bad, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, he's gonna bleed out. But I can't. You can't show emotion, right?
Right.
And this guy's screaming, "Oh my God!" You know, he's screaming all this expletives and stuff. You know, and I'm trying to get him to look to the right. I'm like, "Oh, stop it! Look over there." He goes, "Who shoots somebody in the elbow?" Obviously, a lucky shot, right?
Right.
I mean, it wasn't anywhere else. Like, you'll be just fine, you know. And at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, like, he's about to bleed out. So now I had to put it through a tourniquet.
Did you tourniquet? Yeah.
Yeah, I did a tourniquet above his elbow, with the hopes that, you know, I knew we would be able to get him back. If we get him back within 8 to 12 hours, they don't have to
amputate, right?
So I'll never forget that, and there was a couple other guys. But the end of that day, when everything was all said and done, I pick up my gear, I just drop off the interpreter, I go back to my separate little forward operating base. We're in a separate compound. I always wondered what happened to him. I never saw him again.
Never? So you don't know if they were able to save him, save his arm, you don't know any of that?
I don't.
And there's no one you can contact to ask?
No.
Wow.
No. And it wasn't just him. There's quite a few situations like that where I would work on people and do stuff, you know.
Right.
And you just never know what happened to them.
There's no follow-up.
There's no, you know, once they leave, they go to Germany.
Right.
That's it.
That's
the end of it. Yeah. You know, and you just wondering. You didn't know the guy's first name. You just knew his last, right? So we always go by last names. How many Arroyos are out there? I mean, there's lots of them.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like having Williams. It's just all over the place.
Yeah. Right.
And you always
wonder.
That's what you wonder about. But you know, it's something I wouldn't say cherish. You just try to remember them. I do it in silence. I usually stay in my basement. I'm not a fan of the 4th of July. It's just because the meaning of Memorial Day and 4th of July and all these things are so...
A lot of people died.
It's so convoluted.
Literally, a lot of people died.
nobody knows the reason why we have this day off other than, hey, it's a long weekend, start of summer.
Well, I think if you're not entrenched in the life, right, then you tend to just assume, you associate Memorial Day with sales. This is the weekend you go and you get a car. Or
the unofficial start of summer.
Unofficial start of summer. So we're going to open our pool. Like, unless you've been directly affected by the loss of brothers and sisters in arms, or you're married to a service person, then you don't understand the significance all the time of the sacrifices that are made. And I often say, and my girlfriend said it to me before I really realized it, that anyone who is deployed, anyone who is serving, it's not just you.
It's the family.
It's the families. It's your spouses and your children and the people you leave behind. So I think for us, Memorial Day is far more significant because I've been a front seat passenger to your journey through the years and the people you've lost versus my neighbor who doesn't know that, so for her it's all about the barbecue.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things I still don't talk about.
Right. Oh, I know. I'm aware. Thank you.
I have a question. Do you begrudge people of their ignorance?
No.
Do you? Okay. But do you wish people knew and understood more?
No, sometimes you got to accept life for what it is. That's all. It's not their fault.
And ignorance is bliss. For some folks. It
is, but what can I do? Can I go out there and be like, this is Memorial Day weekend, you're supposed to,
You could.
You could.
Like, you literally could, but what would it change?
Intent versus impact, right?
Right.
What's the impact of you acting that way or saying something to that effect? Or trying to get your point across. How you feel about something is different than how I feel about something. It's because of our experiences with that situation.
Do you feel a certain way when someone thanks you for your service?
I don't know, how do I explain this? I feel awkward.
Oh, I understand that, but why do you feel awkward? What is it about the gratitude that makes you feel awkward?
Because nowadays, that was 05, right? We had 05 and then we had...
Your first tour?
That was my first one.
Your first combat tour?
Combat tour, right?
Yes, almost 20 years ago.
Right, I was 30 at the time, about to turn 50, right? The meanings change. If you meet a Vietnam vet, what are you supposed to say to them?
Right.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. There you go.
Thank you.
That's it. Anytime you see a Vietnam vet, you're supposed to say welcome home. Why?
And why is that?
Explain
to people why that is.
They were never welcomed home.
Right.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They were treated as outcasts.
That's horrible.
Because
it is.
The sentiment towards the war was so
egregious that it translated to the people who had no choice to go.
Right. Well, they were just serving.
They're doing their job.
And a lot of them were drafted, right?
Oh, yeah.
So not even voluntarily. They were voluntold that they were going to go fight this war. Right.
So you say something like that. How about a Korean War veteran? What do you say to one of them?
I don't know.
You're not forgotten because it's considered the forgotten
war.
So I just did a
Korean conflict. Was the original, right?
Correct. It was a policing action similar to Vietnam and how it escalated. So understanding the differences.
And the Korean War is what MASH was based on, right? Okay.
I just did a musical
right after World War II
called Violet, where one of the characters goes, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to Korea. It'll be fine." It's like, it's barely a war, he says in the show. And like, it didn't click until you said that people didn't even realize that it was going to be so long, that it was going to be so arduous. And it's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
It is. And it was a short one. It was right after World War II, right? That was the greatest generation, they say. But it's one of those things. I was in a part of a PTSD group of veterans, and I was considered the young buck, even though I was the highest ranking and did the most time in combat as far as tours. But that didn't matter.
Right.
Listening to their experiences, to me, tells me if we don't learn from our past mistakes, we're bound to
repeat
them again, right?
Yeah.
Because the things that they were telling me, I'm like, wow, I went through the same thing. The confusion, what's going on, what's the mission, how are we executing this? You stay pinpoint focused on the job so that everything else is a non-factor.
Right.
Right? If I'm sitting and getting ready to go on a mission, and I'm worried about, let's say my girlfriend or my wife's fidelity, if she's being faithful, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that messes with you. You shouldn't have to worry about things like that. Or the bills getting paid, or how are my children doing?
Right.
It's a barrier you have to put up, and you have to separate what's going on right now versus what's going on at home.
Right.
And you have to pretty much forget about that, because that's not important right now.
You need to be present
in this moment. Right. And that takes a little time, and you compartmentalize your emotions. You just put them away.
Compartmentalize.
Right.
Yes.
You shut them off, close them, put them away.
Right.
Now, luckily, in my situation, I had a wonderful wife. She took care of the bills. I never had to worry about anything as far as home. So I was able to focus on the task at hand.
Do you know of any soldiers who had to deal with Dear John letters?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's
really?
It's heart-wrenching. Yeah, it is. It is. And not just young guys either.
Really?
Yeah, there were
experienced service
Oh,
men
yeah.
or women. Wow.
And that time away, causes a certain type of resentment, not understanding the circumstances.
Right.
And guys were getting cleaned out while they're still actively serving in combat. So try to keep your mind in two different spots.
Right.
You could tell when somebody's like out of their wits, or something's not right.
Right.
And you ask them, hey, Troop, you all right? Everything okay?
Right.
Yeah, everything's fine. Are you sure?
Sure,
You need somebody to talk to. Talk to me.
Right.
Because I was older at that time, I understood that.
Right.
But when you have a 24-year-old, which to a 17, 18, 19-year-old, that guy's old, and he's, he's senior and everything else, like, they idolize these guys. Complaints usually go up, not down. So my responsibility is not to complain to you.
Right.
It's not for me to ask why, but to do and die. Do your job. At the same time, teach, mentor, train, and develop the younger soldiers to try to help them cope and deal. If you see that they're out of wits and something's really bad going on, then we exclude them from the mission, because you become
a liability.
Yeah.
So what can you leave our listeners, especially someone like me? Like, I have military veterans in my family, but they never tell me these kind of things. What can you leave us with as far as what to take away? What should we do? What do you want us to remember?
Put up an American flag, right? Nowadays, it's taboo.
It represents something else now.
There's more to it, right?
There is more to it.
But, with everything else that's going on, I get it. But on that particular day, put up a flag.
Okay.
Show a little pride in the country, and overall to make that soldier feel like, I did this for a reason.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. It makes a big difference when you see somebody else supporting, even if it's inadvertently.
Right.
And even a sign, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service, or I don't know, something to that effect. How does it make me feel? It makes me feel awkward, because that's become the saying now. Right? For anybody in the global war on terrorism, which we're already 23 years in.
Right.
It's one of those things where everybody will say, hey, thanks for your service. Hey, man, thank you for your service. My response is, not a problem, my pleasure. No, I try to get away from it real quick. What makes things awkward is when they ask you questions about your service.
Your time spent,
Or somebody they start getting into politics.
And they give you their view.
Right.
And they give you their view on what you did.
Right.
And that's where people get it convoluted, and understanding that old men start wars, young men die in them.
Right.
Two different things.
100%.
Right? The CEO has a goal and objective for his company.
Right.
Underneath them, they're the ones who are making
the work.
Yeah, they're the ones.
They're the grunts.
The grunts.
Yeah.
You got Steve Jobs, right? You think he really cares about all these guys putting these phones together? The engineers, he doesn't know. But they're the ones doing the work.
Right.
So, you leave it at that and understand, and treat Memorial Day as it is. Memorialize those who have given
the ultimate
sacrifice.
What's the saying? Some gave all. Or all gave some gave all.
All gave some, and some gave all. That's the tattoo.
That's on the tattoo, yeah.
I love it.
What's your favorite military show / movie?
This is our segment
where we talk.
Great segue.
Can I get a thank you?
Yes, I always get it.
I always fumble the segue.
No, this is the part where it's like, what are you watching?
What are you watching?
But what is your favorite?
What's your favorite military show and or movie?
My favorite movie is Black Hawk Down. I was a very young man when I watched it. I was actively serving in the military. And I wanted to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a ranger. I wanted to be special force. They, I idolize those type of guys who are able to go through that type of training. But that's one of my favorites. What I learned in combat was it doesn't matter what you wear on your uniform or what training you've gone through. A bullet is very indiscriminate.
Right.
And you take all that off when you're in the midst of combat anyway, so your rank, all that stuff is removed.
I remove all
So
that.
they don't know who's... That's
Right.
why they didn't know that you were a reservist, first sergeant, first class, saving their butts.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You don't have to. Well,
You don't have to, because it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what you wear.
Right.
I would see that later on.
So Black Hawk Down is your favorite military movie.
It is. It is because I can relate to it.
Right.
I can relate to everything that occurred in there because I've seen it with my own eyes firsthand. You know.
So Hot Shots is not your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Want to be
Not
clear
even on
about
the
that.
list.
Not even on the list.
No.
Okay, not even in the running.
No,
There.
not even in the running.
All right.
What's yours, Tasha? Do you
My
have
favorite
a
military movie?
Yeah.
A Few Good Men.
Okay.
No, you can't.
The acting in that is superb.
You
I love
can't.
it.
You can't handle the truth.
It's hard. It's hard, especially now post his
Mm-hmm.
missions, his tours. Watching a lot of it, it's hard for me
Right.
to watch it.
I get it.
Especially when I hear stories, and again, a lot of the stories that I've heard about his experiences during those tours, I'm just learning. There were things he really kept close to the cuff that
Yeah.
he didn't share with me for years.
So I have a question for you.
I'm not here for me. We're here for you.
If
though.
that is your favorite movie
Dang.
and you love the acting, and seeing what you've done since then, that movie came out, and going through what you've gone through, can you actually find and understand and relate to Colonel Jessup in the way he was coming towards Tom Cruise?
I can.
Scene?
I can.
Can you?
Yeah. What?
I wish y'all could see my face. This is beautiful.
Yeah, no, I definitely can. You know, so
Gives you a different thought, right?
it does. It gives you a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
It does. However, I don't know. Colonel Jessup was something, that guy.
He was something.
But he was doing his job.
But he was doing his job.
We
need people like
he
that.
was putting the need of the many
before the need
need of the few.
That's right.
And you learned that.
Star Trek.
It is.
It
Oh,
is.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Dr.
Star
Spock.
Trek.
But I
That's
use that
literally it.
as a teaching point whenever I'm training soldiers. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Now,
Right.
You're not always going to make the right decision,
Right.
but the fact that you need to make one is paramount.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, more will die.
Right.
But if you base it on the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, outside of you,
Right.
even if you need to go sacrifice yourself, then you made the right decision.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Because all we do when we come home is Monday night quarterback.
Always.
we've
What we
seen,
wish, right.
what you wish could have happened. And that's
yeah.
where the guilt builds in.
Yeah. Survivor's remorse, is that what it's called? That's
Yeah.
what it's called.
Survivors are not.
I know it's buyer's
Survivor's
remorse.
guilt.
Buyer's guilt. Thank you. See, that's why I keep them around. They keep me honest. And my favorite TV show for a long time was Army Wives, because that was my life. Also, that's when I fell in love with Sterling K. Brown, but that's a different...
He is magical.
He is magic. Period.
When he touched me, I was like, I lost my mind.
That part.
He's phenomenal.
He is. And his
And that
smile is amazing. God have mercy. But anyway,
Stops traffic.
we're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, cool. Any final thoughts before we sign off on this very special episode of No Roadmap with Tasha and Fallon? Guest star, my hubby.
I want to thank you so much for randomly sitting with us as we attacked you.
Totally pulled you in 5 minutes before we started this. We're like, hey, we're doing an episode of Memorial Day. Guess who's going to be sitting in? You, sir.
No, literally, we might win an award for this.
No.
Like the unknown podcast that might win an award.
For our 7 subscribers. Tell a friend. Come on, people.
She said 7 because it's true.
Because it's true. How are y'all listening but not subscribing?
Right.
You know? I love
That's
y'all.
lazy.
Subscribe, share,
Like some
post.
episodes have got like 30 listeners, and I'm like, and y'all ain't subscribing?
And y'all ain't subscribing?
It was my pleasure.
No, it was our pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us and for being so open and honest about it.
We love it.
Because not everyone is.
No.
So there you have it. Yeah, well, listen, I tell everything.
True story.
So, and now that he has come out of the shadows, I can really start using his name and not having Alan fix it in post. So
Alan
thank you for
fixes
that.
nothing in post.
He's gonna fix that last episode. I bet he does. I bet
You
he
don't
do.
know what I clean up.
You that
thank
part.
goodness.
Come on, we thank
He
God
does such
for
a
you.
good job. We don't notice.
We don't even
anything.
know
He
it.
serve pros
That part.
every episode.
Hilarious.
Like he wasn't even there.
Okay.
Love you, Alan.
Thank you. But in the interim, people, listen. Like, subscribe, share.
Yes, share.
Please tell a friend and then tell that friend to tell friends.
Right.
And also follow us on the socials.
Yes.
Our IG is No Roadmap Pod. So be sure to go to our page and like that as well.
And we're on Threads. We're on all the major streaming platforms.
Yep.
So find us.
Find us and share. That's what I'm going to start. I'm just going to start like sending random episodes out to people.
Right.
Be like, you should take a listen while you're cleaning dishes.
Who cleans dishes?
I clean dishes until my husband got me a dishwasher. Thank you, boo.
Oh no, that was a tenet of my marriage.
That
I don't
your
wash
hubby had
dishes.
to do dishes?
No, that either he does them or I get a dishwasher because I'm not doing it.
No, I washed dishes for 20 years, so I love having a dishwasher.
Nope.
Oh, the struggle's real, huh?
It is. I know. He's in here sharing all these harrowing experiences.
Such a hard life.
It is. Hey, listen, we all have our battles.
I gotta do my own dishes.
That part.
What is going on?
There's no Bronze Star for doing dishes. If there were, I wouldn't win it because I have a dishwasher. Thank you.
I would like to say that anything I've done in combat and the stuff I'm talking about, I'm a nobody.
No, you are somebody.
No. I'm a nobody. You know why?
Why?
I have 10, 10, and 2, and I still have my family. I'm here to speak with them.
Yeah.
That's the difference. There's so many others that
Didn't make it home.
or even the traumas that they've dealt with, where they don't have 10, 10, and 2. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and 2 eyes.
Right.
And those are the ones that that need to be recognized for their sacrifice.
Absolutely. I agree with that. 110%. We thank them all.
100%. We do.
I am just a cook. That's all I am.
Yeah. Well, when people ask what my husband did, I tell them
I was a cook.
he was a cook.
That's it.
Kept it cooking. And on that note, good people, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of No Roadmap with Tasha and Fallon. Remember, don't be a jerk. Bye. Thank you for listening to No Roadmap with Tasha and Fallon. Follow us on IG at No Roadmap Pod. Send us your questions, ideas, and reactions. Tell us all the things because we're going to tell you all the things. Until next time, bye.